Welcome to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. I'm Mike Calabrese, and I'm joined today by Sean Zerillo to break down the Monday slate in the bigs. But before we get to some of the best bets and angles to attack here, including some YRFI and NRFI plays from Billy Ward at the back half of our show, two stories I want to cover. First, Mookie Betts, and then, of course, Torpedo Bats, sucking up all the oxygen in Major League Baseball. Everybody wants to talk those angles. Sean is going to come to the table with some interesting info. But let's start here with Mookie Betts and the Dodgers. Apparently, the Dodgers didn't get the memo. If you're going to be a threat to win, 115 games, you spend more money annually than Denmark, shout out to our parent company, you're supposed to be unlikable. Like, essentially, they're taking the mantle from those Yankee teams of old where it's like, it was just fun to root against the Yankees because they had so many advantages. But this Dodger team is incredibly likable, and the story that comes out with Mookie Betts is a good example. He has this scary health situation. He loses 20 pounds. There's some thoughts. Is he going to miss extended time? Is he ever going to be right this season? I mean, to lose 20 pounds in that short amount of time, the alarm bells are going off. Well, apparently no worries whatsoever because he comes back on Friday night, hits the go-ahead home run in the eighth against the Tigers, and then hits a 3-run bomb to win the game in extras. So they've already won with their staff. They've won with their lineup in dramatic fashion to win in extras. And now they got Atlanta coming to town for a series that's really pivotal for the Braves, who've started winless on the season. Their bullpen's kind of in shambles. But I want to kick it to you, Sean. What are your thoughts on Mookie Betts just coming back from the grave, it seems like, just to hit these monster home runs and to put the Dodgers on his back on Friday night?
Yeah, I'm trying not to be too much a conspiracy theorist here. Now, the Dodgers got every single bang play. I'm not saying they got calls in their favor, though. There was an Ohtani home run review that I don't think was out of the park. There's a fan reaching over at the interference that probably should have gone against them. We have much more definitive replays for these plays at home plate than we do for plays in the outfield. But quickly, let the call in the field stand for Dodgers home runs, and then with a less definitive angle for the Tigers trying to score the go-ahead run of the ninth inning on what seemed like one of those plays that's like too close to overturn. They're like, nope, he's out. And after the fact, saw a replay, seemed like the glove hit the hit, whatever. But, Dodgers getting every single challenge go their way and also making every single bang play. I can't emphasize that enough. They're making the plays, but like every single play they seem to make. Now, with regards to the Mookie Betts situation, this is part of what sent my spidey senses tingling. Betts' walk-off home run flew. And the two home runs he hit in that game were two of his four softest home runs over the past 3 years. Neither was above 97 miles an hour, 95.8 and 96.7. He's had one in 2023 at 96.3. He had one in 2024 also at 95.8. The problem is those home runs came in June and July with much warmer temperatures. The other problem is those two home runs came on fastballs at 96 and 97 miles an hour. So, well, I guess one of the first that he had in the game where he had two came on 97 as well. But the weather, right? The temperatures, nowhere near where a ball should be flying that far, hit off the bat at 95.8. So makes the spidey senses tingle. I do think there's a chance that MLB has introduced new balls this season. We have some data points that show that the expected WOBA on fly balls is very close to where it was during the juice ball season in 2019. It's much closer to that than it was to the unjuiced balls that we had 2 years ago. The home run to fly ball rate, the first couple days was close to 15%. Again, that's where the juice ball era, like home run to fly ball rate was. It's come back down to 13% in the past couple days, which is closer to where it was the past couple years. And then finally, the drag coefficient data, which I constantly emphasize on Baseball Savant, it aligns with the data point from last year. So my theory is that like in 2020, I believe 2020, 2021, MLB is incorporating a new ball in, but they're putting two batches of baseballs out there at the same time. And I do think we're getting games where some of the batted balls that are getting struck are flying a little bit further. Some of the batted balls that are getting struck are not flying as far, but you're getting this mix of baseballs that's causing this disparate impact across different ballparks. We'll get into the Torpedo Bat stuff with the Yankees and other teams in a second, but just wanted to note the baseballs in general. I do think there's evidence that there are different balls in play, but then there's data points that suggest we're using the same exact baseballs as last year. And I think the disagreement in those data points, to me, suggests that there may be two different balls in play, and it's not like MLB hasn't done that in the past. So just something to keep an eye on as we go throughout the season. But if there is a new ball in play, I think over this summer, it means we're likely to get those juice baseballs incorporated even more, because that would seem to be the ball that they're cycling in as a more juice baseball. So just something to keep an eye on. Can't confirm it yet. Still need more information and more time to work with the data. But, the balls do tend to be flying visually a little bit further than what my brain expects based on the ball off the bat.
This feels like a Major League Baseball version of The Big Short. You're Dr. Michael Burry. You're basically going through the mortgage tranches and saying, this is supposed to be a AAA. This is a B at best. Like, how do you play this and factor this in? Is this just fact-finding season to be able to get a feel for how you're playing totals and player props? And if it is true that there's some balls in the mix that absolutely are set up to be hit out of the park, does that impact, the odds on a particular player to hit a home run, knowing that there could be a bonus in there in terms of, exit velocities or, some of the drag coefficients and things that you're discussing?
I mean, it's predictably unpredictable, which it is every single season with Major League Baseball. You never know if they're going to change the ball. I don't know if we'd even be talking about this if we didn't know that they had changed the ball in the past, right? If we'd had the same ball consistently for the past 5 years, we might be going, oh, it's 3 days of variance and maybe temperatures are a little warm for this time of year, which I think they are. I think they have been. Not today, not specifically for Monday, which we'll get into, because I have a lot of unders today as a result of colder weather. But over the weekend, it seemed like temperatures were a little bit warmer than they are this time of year. But again, we're comparing these home run to fly ball rates and the expected WOBA data on fly balls. We're comparing that to full season data worth of samples. Right now, it's just March. The temperatures should be colder than they are on average in the summer. Like, these numbers should be lower, right? Right now, they're aligning or higher than the averages from the recent years. So that alone should stand out as concerning, because right now, temperatures are nowhere near where they will be in a couple months. And with those temperatures increasing, offense is going to increase. So I've already bumped my run adjustment or my run scoring environment up a little bit. I'm not making a full adjustment yet, but I do think it's directionally correct to go up instead of down or staying the same at this point.
Now, I swear we're not trying to boost our podcast ratings by trotting out some of these conspiracy theories, but one that doesn't seem like a theory is the Torpedo Bats. I mean, I'm looking at my notes here. The Yankees hit 100 home runs with the bats. It was ridiculous. As soon as you saw the pop that everybody was having using this, then they're discussing it on the live broadcast. Then every single rules expert comes out of the woodwork across all of Major League Baseball Twitter. I mean, what's the likelihood that MLB just shuts this down in short order? I mean, it could be legal. I would be shocked if they didn't run it by somebody to be able to figure out if this was within play. It seems like everything that I read, they're sticking to the letter of the law, maybe not the spirit of the law. But what are the chances Major League Baseball says, okay, the party's over. We can't have you guys hitting, 8 and 9 home runs per game?
I'd say it's very doubtful during the season. Maybe it happens next offseason, but I don't think they're going to shut it down during the season. The organization would flip out. Like, you've had these guys using these bats in spring training. Now you're going to tell them they can't use it. You're too far gone at this point. There's nothing in the rules that prevents it. The Major League Baseball rule on bats, the section is actually very small. There's a rule about the diameter of the bat, 2.6 inches at the thickest part, no more than 42 inches in length. There's a rule about the cup in the top of the bat. There's a rule about pine tar or sticky substances going 18 inches up the bat. That's it. There's no rule about the handle. There's no rule about adjusting the thicker part of the bat, where the barrel is. And frankly, this goes back to like the 1880s in terms of when people first tried to do this. We just have more resources now. We can afford to break bats and replace them. In the 1880s, they couldn't afford to replace bats as easily. Like, they had one bat for the team. The whole team's using the long stick. And then if the stick breaks, the whole team is shipping in to replace the stick. Every player now gets multiple bats. So where did this come from? And also, I want to carve out the fact Aaron Judge is not using this bat. So you take away Judge's 3 home run day from that record-setting 9 home run day, take away Judge's home run yesterday, like, you get a little more normalized, right? If you take Aaron Judge, greatest home run hitter in the history of the planet, out of the equation, who's using a normal bat? Now, where did this come from? So Aaron Leonard, who's an MIT physicist, worked for the Yankees last season as an analyst. I believe he works for the Marlins now. But he came up with this design to maximize contact by concentrating more wood and mass in the barrel of the bat, where hitters are more likely to make contact. But they're not doing like a one-size-fits-all approach here. This is personalized based on each player and the data points that they're finding based on, I would assume, like bat tracking and AI and like, motion tracking stuff where it's automatically picking up where on the bat the ball is hitting, where they're striking the ball. Typically, with Anthony Volpe, they noticed he hits the ball off the label way more than he does in the barrel. So they move the barrel closer to where the label is. Anthony Volpe already has 2 home runs. He pulled the ball down the line in left field at, again, like 93, 94 miles an hour off the bat. That ended up going out. So these balls are flying a little bit further sometimes, even though you're hitting them 93, 94, 95 miles an hour off the bat. But there's 4 guys in the Yankees that we know are using it: Volpe, Jazz, Cody Bellinger, and Austin Wells. Apparently, Giancarlo Stanton had one last year. And Giancarlo Stanton, if you have not paid attention, has tennis elbow in both elbows. And after hitting 40 home runs or whatever he hit last year, having a career resurgence, seems like he may never play again. Like, there's an actual possibility Giancarlo Stanton might be done. So you have to consider that too. There's always, we talk about unintended consequences with rule changes. There's going to be unintended consequences with equipment changes. And the unintended consequences typically are going to be injury. If you're swinging a bat that these players have called lighter to the touch with different weight distribution, it's going to be having a disparate impact on your body than it did previously. I'm not a athletic movement scientist. I'm not a kinesiologist, but I can tell you, like, just changing the equipment is going to change how their muscles interact with said equipment. So it could lead to injuries for some guys, in the future that we're just unaware of now. It could lead to UCL tears or whatever. I'm just theorizing here, but it could lead to potential injury in the future. And that is just something to watch out for. But it's already picked up around the league. Ryan Jeffers on the Twins is using one. Junior Caminero used one yesterday. A bunch of Orioles players have requested them. But there's also other guys who have no interest in using them. Like I said, Aaron Judge. There's guys who are creatures of habit who don't want to change their bat. So it's a new piece of technology. We don't have enough data yet to see, ultimately what the impact is. From the StatCast people who have analyzed it, they've said that so far there's no increase in the exit velocity that you get as a result of striking it, at that angle with the same exit velocity. And there's no fly ball distance advantage, I should say, striking it at the same exit velocity, same bat to ball angle, etc. But it does increase your chance of actually putting the barrel on the ball. So after all these years of pitchers increasing exit velocity, optimizing their pitch mixes, etc., seems like the hitters finally have something to fight back with a little bit here, which is these torpedo bats where you should limit your mistakes, limit your mishits a little bit more, and increase your barrel rate a little bit more. And if that's going to be the case, offense should also go up as a result league-wide once these hitters become more accustomed to using it. So just another thing to keep an eye on, but it is a copycat league, and whatever advantage the Yankees had with these bats, it's already gone because now everybody's free to use them and everybody knows about them. They just have to design them and send them off to the preferred bat manufacturers of these hitters.
Programming note, every Monday, Tuesday, Friday, we're going to hit you with our best bet episode. So let's hop in here on March 31st. Sean, the first one that you're targeting is the Rays hosting the Pirates. They have a nice schedule, to get out of the gate. They have the Rockies. They win that series, winning 2 of 3. Now they're up against the Pirates here. It looks like this money line is on the move. Is it moving outside of your preferred window? And if so, is there a different angle that you could play a first 5 or potentially, on the run line?
Yeah, race first 5 or full game up to -175 for me. This is the reminder to follow me in the Action Network app. Specifically, if I'm betting favorites, you will never find value with me in the morning on a favorite if I bet them overnight. I can guarantee you I don't bet that many favorites. I don't bet that many favorites in this type of range. If I'm betting favorites, it's usually closer to -110 or -120. It's not that I don't want to bet favorites in this range. I just don't often project value on teams in this range. But the Rays did show value today, and it's mostly because of the Pirates bullpen situation. They had 4 guys all pitch 3 out of the past 4 days, 1 on back-to-back. I don't see any middle relief innings and effective middle relief innings for the Pirates today. They're also starting a converted reliever in Carmen Mlodzinski, who only throws 64 pitches at max in spring. He's got a really good slider. I do not think he has the stuff to get through an opposing lineup multiple times. And getting through multiple times is something that's not only necessary, but required here, considering the Pirates bullpen situation. But even behind him, I don't see the middle innings to fill it out. Their top relievers are all probably down for today, or at least at reduced effectiveness, because it would be their 4th appearance in 5 days to start the year. And Drew Rasmussen projects as one of the best starting pitchers on a per inning basis. Career 2.95 ERA, got his pitch count up to 74 in spring, which is the most pitches he's thrown since May of 2023. This guy has elite stuff. All 4 pitches are at 119 stuff plus or above, I believe. I mean, Rasmussen is just absolutely sick, the stuff he throws. It's kind of like a Jacob deGrom, where on a per inning basis, this guy projects with the starting pitcher ones. He's just never on the field. He's thrown 310 career innings in about 6 years, and half of those innings all came in one season. Now, when he's on the mound, again, extremely effective, 25% strikeout minus walk rate last year, projects among the aces in baseball. FIP in the low 3s is roughly where he projects. Unfortunately, though, it does seem like this one is coming out of range. The only other angle I'd bet on this game is the over 8 at minus 110. I'm waiting, though. We don't have umpire information right now. It's always going to be an issue on the Monday shows. Will be an issue on the Tuesday shows sometimes, as well as series reset. Teams are off on Monday. This is a borderline one for me. Right now, I'm at like 8.6. The total's at 8 minus 110. If we get a pitching umpire in here, it'd be no bet for me. If we get a neutral umpire in here, it would be a bet for me at that level. I'm comfortable waiting with the chance that I may miss out on the number, while waiting for an umpire. I just want to get all the information we have available if the total is borderline like this. But lean over. I just think, it's maybe more of a raised team total over. Like Rasmussen, I expect to shut down this Pirates offense for the first 5 innings. I like the Rays bullpen much more than I like the Pirates bullpen today, but I think there's some blowout potential here, given the Pirates need to reset their bullpen today for the rest of the week. There's a chance Mlodzinski just goes out and throws 90 pitches and just eats a bunch of damage, even if they fall behind. So I think the Rays team total over, or maybe even a spread, has some potential as well. I laid the money line, but just thinking about how the game may play out and with the Pirates bullpen, it could be one that runs away from them.
We're crisscrossing the country for your second best bet, which is A's versus Cubs at Sutter Health Stadium there in Sacramento. You like under on the total. It's going to be pretty chilly, low 50s. There's going to be some wind to consider as well. Walk me through this total here in the A's first home game in Sacramento.
We talked about betting a bunch of overs at this park, but that's not until this summer. The average temperatures for Oakland from May through September, 69, 72, 72, 73, 75. In Sacramento, May through September, 82, 89, 95, 93, 89. It's 55 degrees there today. We're not talking about warm temperatures in Sacramento boosting the run scoring environment yet. The Coliseum, Oco Coliseum, played about 8% below the major league average. That's roughly where Sutter Health Park should play today. The dimensions of the parks are very similar. Coliseum, 330, 400, 330. Sutter Health Park, 325, 403, 330. The biggest difference between the two is the foul ground territory in Oakland, which led to increased foul outs, fly outs in the outfield, foul outs behind home plate, just tons of room for batters to end their plate appearances quickly. And as a result, everybody lost like 10 to 20 points of batting average just by playing their home games in Oakland. You're going to have more opportunities to foul pitches off, stay alive in the at-bat in this park. But with the wind and weather for today's matchup, it is not an over park today. So yeah, under, I bet. I projected this closer to, I believe, 7.5. So the under, or 7.75. So the under 8 to even money, under 8.5 to minus 118. And then I also like the Cubs in the first 5 innings as well, up to minus 140. They're going to project well for me almost every day and project more towards the under, leaning towards the under on most days. This is my number 1 defensive team in my model now that I've seen every team's defensive rating with their full lineups in there. Hap, PCA, and Kyle Tucker. Well, Tucker and Hap rate both in the top 8, I believe, for defensive outfielders over the past 3 seasons in defensive runs saved. So both amongst the best corner outfield defenders. And then PCA rates in the 97th percentile or above in every defensive indicator, like sprint speed, range, throwing arm, etc. PCA is unbelievable. He's getting much better as a hitter too. And then you have Dansby Swanson up the middle, who leads shortstops in defensive runs saved over the past 3 seasons. So virtually at every position, except for third base with Matt Shaw, the Cubs are above average defensively, if not elite. And yeah, this is a very strong defensive club. I like them to steal outs. And I think Ben Brown is really high potential for them. We'll see how they manage the bullpen today. That's like my one little scare. Their bullpen blew up yesterday in Arizona. They gave up that 7-run inning, I believe in the 7th or 8th inning. Arizona came back. The Cubs bullpen could be a little shaky, but they're not like unrested for today. They have guys available who could pitch effective innings besides Brown. And Brown, I think, has high potential to shut down any offense. He's got a crazy four-seam fastball, curveball combination. They're both elite pitches. So if you could develop a third pitch, this guy could be very good. But I think even with 2 pitches, he could be extremely effective. Like you've seen from a Spencer Strider. Strider can get through lineups with 2 pitches. He's added a third, but he was getting it done with 2 pitches. I think Brown is capable not of being a Spencer Strider, but of being a very effective pitcher even with 2 pitches.
Now, earlier, you grit your teeth. You gave out a -175 favorite, really not your wheelhouse. This is your wheelhouse, an underdog play. Where do you think has the most value on Monday's card?
Yeah, the Braves at +200. Now, I put this in the app last night at +170. I said I'm putting in a partial play here because I expect this line to go up and should have just waited to fire the whole thing in. +200 on the Braves this morning. I think that's the peak price that you get. Most of the markets are around +185. The Camby books are closer to +200. I would take those +200s where it's available. That was the line, I was hoping it would eventually get to, hit that resistance point at +200, come back down. Now, the Braves offense really cold to start the year. This seems to be an issue with them. Like after they get a break, come back into it, their offense is just cold. Every time they get a playoff bye, come back into a DS, the offense is cold. Just in general, too, with that Ronald Acuna Jr., they're not going to be as effective of an offense. They averaged nearly 9/10 of a run per game in 2023 with Acuna hitting at the top of the order. They averaged half a run per game in the first inning last year. It's a huge drop-off, right? That's like 60 runs or more, 80 runs over the course of a season. But they used to be ahead 1-0, 2-0 on every team and then playing from a lead, bringing in the A relievers, etc. They can't score early. They can't score late now. So this should be, in my opinion, a low-scoring game against the Dodgers. I like Grant Holmes, who's throwing for the Braves. I think he's really underrated. He had a strikeout minus walk rate near 20% last season as a 28-year-old rookie, but he's a really nasty curveball. 2 other above-average offerings. And the Braves have a top 7 bullpen. And even though the Dodgers have my number 2 bullpen, Tyler Glasnow is the better starting pitcher, 2.65 ERA, expected ERA last year, which was a career best. Like the under here. Also going to be a little chillier in LA today. Should be in 55 degrees or so. First pitch, 58 degrees. So like the under 8.5 to -110, 8 -110, I believe. But I'm also on the Braves money line, down to +165 or better. I made this closer to +150. These are the 2 best teams for me in the National League, even without Acuna, frankly. Even without Acuna, I'd still make the Braves better than the Phillies or anybody else. Obviously, Holmes, say best teams, right? You're accounting for all 5 starters. You have to account for the difference in the starting pitching matchup. But Holmes rates really well for me. I know for some people he's probably a bit lower. This guy is like a league average starter, if not better, in my opinion. Where Glasnow rates amongst the number 1s, but once you get this game into the bullpens in the later innings, I think the pitching matchup pushes even closer together. And if the Dodgers don't keep getting these 95-mile-an-hour home runs off the bat that look like no doubters, and if they finally stop making every single bang play, maybe somebody can finally beat them this year. They've certainly been great, but they've also had a number of lucky or very close incidents as well. I mean, the Tigers went 0 for 15 with runners in scoring position against them in that first or second game. Like, the Dodgers are due to take an L. The Braves are due to get a win. I'm not betting it for that reason. I made this line closer to +150. So +165 or better, +200 is kind of absurd.
March is the best month of the year, and not just for sports, but also for getting the best deal on Action Pro. Right now, you can get Action Pro for just over $5 a month for the entire year. And since it's March, that means you can still get NCAA tournament action. There's 3 games left with the Final Four and national title game on deck. And with an Action Pro account, you'll get Sean Kerner's bracket simulations of those games, Nick Giffin's player props, Stuckey's picks 30 minutes before they go out to everyone else, and more. Plus, since it's an entire year of Action Pro, you'll be covered for the Major League Baseball season, as well as college football and the NFL in the fall. So go to actionnetwork.com/March to get on board. All right, let's close things out with a few other bets that you are leaning to or are officially on your card here. You just talked about the Braves heading out west, liking them as a dog. Another team from the Eastern time zone traveling out to the West Coast, talking through the Guardians and the Padres.
Waiting on Jose Ramirez and confirmation on a wrist sprain that he sustained 2 days ago. He was out of the lineup yesterday. He's not a guy who misses any time at all, even when he's banged up. I think it's likelier that he's back in the lineup today than not. If he's not in the lineup, still a break-even play for me on the Guardians at plus 115. Would be no edge. Would consider buying out at that point, at least taking half of it off. If he's in the lineup, it's an edge at plus 115. So Guardians plus 115 or better. We're assuming Jose Ramirez is going to be in the lineup. My lineup people who do my stuff independently have him back in there. They had him out yesterday. I generally trust their predictions with regards to whether guys are going to be in the lineup. Nailed Freddie Freeman not being in the lineup in Tokyo. Got the CLV on those lines. Didn't cash those bets, but it's all about, predicting likelihood of being in the lineup at this point of the day and trying to fire on what we think are those edges. And hey, if he's not in the lineup, I still think it's a break-even play at worst. But also the under in that game as well. The under 8, I would take up to minus 117. Luis Ortiz was a guy I bet on a bunch last season with the Pirates. The Guardians got their hands on him, one of the better pitching development organizations. I think they're going to fully optimize him this year. He's a big stuff plus guy. Had some issues with command. I don't think the Pirates had him fully optimized. I do expect the Guardians to get the most out of him. So the under between the Guardians and the Padres, regardless. Guardians money line if Jose Ramirez is in the lineup. Mariners, Tigers under 7.5. It's going to be about 50 degrees here at first pitch. Jackson Jobe versus Emerson Hancock. Jobe has crazy stuff, 123 stuff plus on his cutter, 111 on his change, 105 on his slider, which is closer to average, but has 3 very good pitches. The concern here with both he and Hancock is the walks. Even though it's going to be colder, should suppress hard hit balls, reduce fly ball distance, etc. Both Jobe and Hancock can be guys who have command issues at times. And it doesn't matter how cold it is in terms of suppressing batted balls if you're going to be walking in runners. So I'm a little worried about the command there with those guys. But if Jobe is putting the ball in the zone, the Mariners are not going to do anything with those baseballs. It should be a lot of weak contact. He's probably the number 1 pitching prospect in baseball. With the way Roki Sasaki looks, frankly, he's pulling ahead of Sasaki. Sasaki's been a disaster. NL Rookie of the Year is wide open. He's not handling it well emotionally either, his early struggles. I think the Sasaki thing could be an issue for the Dodgers this year. I think he'll figure it out eventually, turn into a good pitcher. But in terms of NL Rookie of the Year stuff, just keep an eye on that because Sasaki's faltered early, and I think the problems are more pitch mix than they are like confidence. He's a nasty splitter. The 4-seam fastball shape doesn't seem to be doing well. Getting away from this Mariners-Tigers game a little bit, but just I'm noting, I think Jobe is my number 1 pitching prospect. I think I might put him ahead of Roki Sasaki at this point. He's very talented. And once he blossoms, the Tigers are a serious World Series contender. Because if you throw him and Skubal, once Jobe gets to his potential, if you throw him and Skubal 3 times in a 5-game series, 4 times in a 7-game series, that's very tough to beat if you're going to have 2 ace-level starting pitchers. And then whatever they could develop behind that. The Tigers seem to be leveling up their talent. I know they had that rough series in LA to start the year, but they were really competitive with the Dodgers. They hit as well against Yamamoto as any team has really since the second half of last season. Put a lot of runners on base, got a lot of opportunities against that Dodgers bullpen. Scored runs late against the Dodgers bullpen, didn't go away without a fight. So even though they started 0-3 in LA, I was really impressed by what I saw from the Tigers. I'm interested in adding more futures, more AL Central futures on them. I think they're the best team in the Central. I think the player development is obvious. I just think they're really well run and probably getting a better number now that they're 0-3. I'll look to time it, at peak pricing. But definitely more interested in adding stuff than Tigers. Just wanted to mention a few others to keep an eye on before we jump out of here. I believe both of these totals have moved out of range. I put both in the app last night. The matinee today, Twins and White Sox at 210. I like the under down to 8 at even money. I think it's out of range now, but 42 degrees at first pitch. Twins have the number 1 bullpen in my model. It's also well rested. They had a blowout loss yesterday. Randy Dobnak ate the innings, got designated for assignment after the game. So Twins should have a full complement of rested relievers today. And the White Sox have the worst bullpen in baseball, but they seem to be pitching a little bit better this year. I think they have nowhere to go but up. Like a 4.5 expected FIP last year or something like that. It was crazy bad. But they, the White Sox pitching, even like guys like Boozer's given up home runs in consecutive games. He's got like a crazy slider. The White Sox pitching development seems to be okay. They seem to be able to design pitches and get a lot out of their arms. You'll see Hagen Smith coming up in the near future. He looks absolutely electric in spring and was one of the top picks in the draft last year. So the White Sox in general, their pitching development's fine. Offensively, they're dead. Like, I don't see this offense scoring very many runs. I know they put up 9 on opening day or whatever, but they were the worst offense in baseball against both righties and lefties last year. I don't really see that changing this year. So the Twins should suppress run scoring in this series pretty effectively. Giants and Astros under 8.5 to -118. Roof should be closed here at Dayton Park. Tough to tell whether it will actually be. The Astros have had some perfect weather days outside. Today looks like it's going to be. They just keep closing the roof. They don't care. They don't care about the fan enjoyment experience, how beautiful the view is inside the stadium. They just keep closing that roof regardless. If the roof is open, again, like another break-even play, I'll consider buying out. With the roof closed, it's going to be an under for me. You're going to read some notes in my opening pitch about Patrick Bailey. He is the best run framing catcher in baseball. If the automated strike zone comes into play next year, that skill is going to go by the wayside a little bit. But this guy influences my projected total by about as much as any player defensively. Could find a good video in my article as well of him framing up pitches. He's like one of the best at it. Just love watching Patrick Bailey apply his trade, but helps the Giants pitching staff. And also that's a top 3 bullpen. Giants should hold the Astros down in the late innings. And also the Astros have their top 2 relievers rested and available today after an off day Sunday. So a lot of things pointing to the under in that matchup. Rays over, I mentioned, keeping an eye on. The Brewers under 8.5. Keep an eye on for the same reason. It's a borderline bet for me right now. We get a neutral or a pitching friendly umpire, I'll fire in that under. We get an over friendly umpire or hitter friendly umpire, I'll be passing on that game. And then underdogs, the Marlins, the White Sox, the Rockies, all showing up as value bets today. I could probably say the same 75% of the days this season, except for when 3 of those teams are playing each other. Gonna have to pick your spots with those teams. Marlins, White Sox, Rockies, probably the 3 worst teams in baseball. 3 lowest win totals coming into the year. Value on them most days. Probably not firing on the Rockies today with the Phillies home opener against Chris Sanchez, who I like. But the other 2, I would consider betting situationally. So we'll dig more into those matchups, but certainly Marlins, White Sox both offer value.
Before we get out of here, let's toss it over to the Action Network's predictive analyst, Billy Ward, to talk some YRFI Nerfies for the Monday slate.
Thanks, Mike. While normally we're talking about specifically first inning bets, today we're going to take a little bit of a curve and start this off with a no-run second inning bet, or NRFI for short. That is between the Twins and the White Sox. The best line is -128 at Caesars. Basically, what I'm noticing here is that Caesars is priced the first inning is more likely to have a run than the second inning, when in fact the exact opposite should be the case. By going with the second inning no-run bet, we're dodging most of the Twins' best hitters, Brian Buxton, Carlos Correa. Those guys are batting in the first. And then same thing on the other side, although the White Sox lineup is not especially scary either through the first 3 hitters or later on. So I'm showing a value on both the first and second inning no runs there. Much, much greater value on the second inning. We're going to play with those throughout the year. Be sure to check out the article I post. Those will be included, or also follow me in the app when I'm posting some of these early. Second bet for the day is back to the traditional first inning, and that is Washington versus Toronto. Little bit fudging the numbers here because I have Bo Bichette's 2024 stats in here. He was bad last year, far lower WRC plus, as well as most of his regular stats compared to his career. If we adjust those up to either his career averages or what most projection systems have for this year, the Toronto lineup becomes extremely top-heavy, much better bats in the first. So we got an 8-run game. We expect the top of the order to produce most of those runs. Those should happen fairly early in the game. Best I'm seeing on that now is -105 at BetMGM. That line has bounced around. I would take that one down to about -115. And those are the only ones I have right now for today. Be sure to follow me in the Action Network app, though. These lines move around a lot. I posted a couple last night that aren't worth playing anymore. That is where you'll find all the best up-to-date information, especially if you sign up for Action Pro. Thanks, guys. Back to you.
Thanks, Billy. It feels truly like baseball. We are all the way back when we were talking YRFIs and NRFIs. That'll do it for today's episode of Payoff Pitch. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to tail some of these bets from today's episode, just look for the quick slip links in the episode description. Don't forget to download the free award-winning Action Network app and leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to the podcast. Also, check out the Action Network Discord. There's a link in today's description of the episode that you can follow to cut it up with Action Network pros as well as enthusiasts of the betting space here in Major League Baseball. We'll see you back here tomorrow for more best bets on Tuesday. For Sean Zerillo, I'm Mike Calabrese. Thanks for listening to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast, and good luck with all your bets.